Cabling Podcast with Chuck Bowser, RCDD. Well, seeing how we're pulling Category 6A, the most powerful twisted pair in the world, you gotta ask yourself this one question. Did I pull 295 or 300 feet? Well, do you feel lucky? Do you, punk? What exactly does RCDD stand for? Registered Communications Distribution Designer. Just the expert you need to ensure your cable plant performs exactly as designed. The elite professional, knowledgeable, and experienced in leading-edge ICT design principles. Now, send the new guy to the truck for a bucket of dial tone and the cable stretchers, while you listen to an informative program on telecommunications.
Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That can only mean one thing. After Hours Live with Chuck Bowser, RCDD, where you get to ask your favorite RCD questions on cable installation, design, certification, estimation, project management, career path questions, right? All them kind of questions. Thursday nights. Tonight's it's going to be a different kind of Q&A session. I went to the NECA conference in Philly last weekend, and I got to talk with a whole bunch of apprentices. So really today's show is a lightning round of questions. I've got, 20 some questions I got to get through, right? First one I want to get to is in TikTok already, and it's from Mr. Ed, the old tech guy. And he says, does that cable stretcher I used in the 90s still work? And the answer to that is, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does. Right. So, we always start everything off with, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? This is an after hours show, so you can drink adult beverages. Tell us in the chat box what you are drinking. Again, I'm drinking, actually, this is cola Zevia this time. It's not root beer, it's cola. Yes. It is getting harder and harder to find Zevia sodas. I am not sure why, but it just is, right? So, the show is free. All my content is free. If you would like to support the content, let me put a QR code up on the screen. Oops, there it is. Everything's running a little slow tonight. There it is. It's over there. See that QR code right there? Click on that QR code. Buy me a cup of coffee, please, man. I could use a cup of coffee. No. I could use another Zevia soda. Right? It's just a way to help support the show. We are looking for corporate sponsors. We're also have Amazon links. There's all Patreon. There's all different ways you can support the show. Please, please, please support the show. I'll leave that there. Okay? I don't like asking for money. So like I said, I attended NECA in Philly. My first time ever attending a NECA event. I've always gone to Bixie conference. I'm a low volt guy. I'm not an electrician. So I got asked to go there for my day job. And I was like, sure, I'll go. I'm a chatty Cathy. I like talking to people. So I went. Man, did I have a blast. Now, I had booth duty the entire time, so I didn't really get to do much else other than booth duty, but I got to talk to about 80 people. 80 people. I mean, literally, I got the scans to prove it. Talked to 80 people. And one of the things I noticed right away was that I did go up to the main conference thing for one of their opening speeches. And it was a room about the size of a normal Bixie conference room. It was jam-packed. There was very little seats. Very little seats. I was like, this reminds me of the Bixie conferences back in their heydays, right? So they had to have at least 7,000 or 8,000 people. I don't know what the final count was, but I know their last year NECA conference, they had 7,500 people there. So this time I guarantee they had more. Now, you probably wondering, Chuck, you're low voltage. Why are you going to the NECA conference? Why are you going there? Those are electricians. Electricians, Sparkies. Sparky shouldn't be doing cabling. Let me tell you something. It opened my eyes. It really, really did. Because I talked to a lot, like I said, about 80 people. I talked to joint apprenticeship training students, joint apprenticeship training instructors, owners of companies, and I just came away with, these guys are doing low volt work. Now, I know there's a adversarial relationship between us and the low volt peeps. I mean, I get it, but we're just Older brother and younger brother, we're all from the same. Now, I did get some information from Nika for a report that I had to write. And one of the things I found out was Nika had surveyed all their electrical contractors. And you know what they found out? 45% of electrical contractors are doing structural cabling work. 45%, almost half, right? Of those 43%, 46% are doing networking and 49% are pulling fiber. So they are doing low voltage work. Okay, they are doing low voltage work. Question just came in on TikTok. Do you have to be a Sparky to get a low voltage license? That is going to be dependent on the state you live in, right? Some states do require you to have be an electrician. Others do not. Some of them just make you go through the hoops. So just kind of depends on the state that you live in. Before we get on with the questions, we've got to do this. Did you catch last week's show? It's kind of ironic it did this way. And I did. I guarantee you, I promise you, I did not do this deliberately. Last Monday's show, I didn't have any interviews set up in the queue, so I had to I had to record a show. So what I've been wanting to do this show for a long time. I did a show on union versus non-union, right? What is the difference? I've been looking for a place to work. Should you go union or should you not go union? Make sure you go listen to that episode because it's not what you think. It's not what you think. And that show is based on my 40-year experience in this industry, working as a non-union installer and a union installer and a manager of both union and non-union workforces. So I give you my opinions on both of those. So make sure you watch that episode. It's a really, really great show. And then next week's show, make sure you tune in because we're talking about how to clean fiber with Ben from True Fiber. Ben from True Fiber. So that should be a very, very interesting show. Very interesting show. So like I said, I've got, I don't know, 10, 15 questions I got to get through. And I got to get through them pretty quickly because Mama wants me to go to Zaxby's to pick up some chicken before my study group tonight. So I'm going to be trying to get through this in time. And these questions are inspired by the apprentices who attended the Nika show. On the second day of the event, Nika, I don't know if Nika paid for it or if the local union halls paid for it. I don't know what. It doesn't matter. 4 bus loads of apprentices showed up for the exhibit hall. Yeah, they brought them in and they gave them an entrance so they can come into the exhibit hall and walk around. Can you imagine if you were in the industry 1 or 2 years and you got to walk around an exhibit hall at a big conference like that? All the cool stuff that you could see. Carhartt was there. Milwaukee was there. Klein was there. DeWalt was there. Obviously, my day job was there and a bunch of other places. It's just absolutely interesting. So, and what I found is when I talked to a lot of those apprenticeship students, I found that they do teach low voltage. They do teach low voltage at the JATC. Now, I kind of knew that, but I found that they didn't really teach the low voltage stuff until I think the one guy said their third or fourth year in the apprenticeship program. So they're teaching the future electricians on how to do low voltage cabling. That's absolutely cool. Absolutely cool. Oh, I forgot to do the acronym challenge. Let's do the acronym challenge. Let's put that up on the screen right now. The acronym challenge for today's show is JATC. JATC. Put in the comments if you think you know what JATC means, right? JATC. I'll give you a few seconds to type that in. JATC has something to do with Nika and the electricians. Look, my buddy John, I should have told you I was in Philly, but I literally was in and out and I was working 12, 14 hours. I was going to call you and hang out with you, but I literally had no free time. Next time I come to Philly, though, you can count on it, my friend. Chris is in the house. Hello, Chris. Welcome back, my friend. I still wear your shirt and your hats all the time, man. I'm gonna do a show one time with it on, right? So there you go. Oh, look at this. Somebody close. Somebody says Journeyman and Apprenticeship Training Center. Not close though. Close. JATC stands for Joint Apprenticeship Training Council. Joint Apprenticeship Training Council, right? So they're usually sponsored by the. Here's a trivia question for you. Answer in the comments, and if you get this right, I will send you a set of stickers. How many JATC schools are there in the United States? How many JATCs are there in the United States? And do not look it up. Do not look it up on Google. Okay? I'm doing this on the honor system, obviously. All right. 200. 200 JATCs. Absolutely. So again, these questions are inspired by people who are in the JATC program who know they're going to be taking some low voltage classes. Actually, these are some of the questions they asked me. Right. So here we go. Ready? Rock on. Lightning round. What is the purpose of category rated copper cables in networking? So category rated cables basically just give you a classification of cables for different types of networks, right? So you have a Cat 5e, Cat 6, Cat 6a, Cat 8 in the US, Cat 7, 7a outside of the US. So once you know what kind of network you have, if you've got a 1 gig network, you can do Cat 5e or Cat 6. If you got a 10 gig network, then you're going to want Cat 6a. If you have a 40 gig network, that's going to be Cat 8. So the category rating just tells you the performance, right? It's like the horsepower. That's what that means. Category 8. And the higher the number, the better the performance. There are some older ones like Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 5, but they're no longer recognized by the standards. No longer recognized by the standards. But you will hear people call Cat 5e cable Cat 5. It's just a thing in our industry. Sometimes you hear it. Some people still call it Cat 5. And if you go outside of the US, like you go to Australia, they do refer to it as Cat 5 down there. So there you go. So again, the next question is, what is the primary difference between Cat 5e and Cat 6 cable? So the ironic thing, both Cat 5e and Cat 6 can handle up to a 1 gigabit network, up to the full 295 feet permanent link length. They both can do 1 gig to 295. The difference is Cat 5e is rated for 100 megahertz. Cat 6 is rated for 250. That's the difference. The thing you're going to find is Cat 5e, because everybody's shifting to Cat 6 now, there's fewer and fewer people buying Cat 5e, which means at some point, Cat 5e will disappear. And the lowest rated cable we'll have will be Cat 6. It's going to happen. Trust me. Now, Cat 6 cable, though, it does have tighter specifications for as far as crosstalk and interference. Okay. Next question. Explain the concept of the twisted pairs in category rated cable. Somebody says in the Beard of Knowledge, RIP Cat 5e. Oh, that's the Beard of Knowledge. Beard of Knowledge. Hey. Hey. There you go. So the pairs inside of the cable are all twisted, and they're twisted at different rates to reduce the effects of EMI. EMI is just crosstalk that happens between pairs within the cable, between cables, between a cable and a device. Okay. So what they do is they're trying to get rid of what's called the internal interferences, like near and crosstalk, far and crosstalk, power sum, near and crosstalk, power sum, far and crosstalk. They all happen inside that cable. So they twist the pairs at different rates so they don't interfere with each other. That's why they twist the pairs. Just they're supposed to be far enough apart that don't interfere with each other. And when you open up a cable, you will literally see how much in fact, I'll hold this up to the camera so you can see it. You look at those 4 pairs, they're all twisted at different rates, right? And the funny thing is, when you actually test a cable, you'll see that difference show up because the lengths of each of those 4 cables will be 4 different lengths, right? One might be at 150, next one might be 151, 152, 153. What is the maximum length for Cat 5e and Cat 6 Ethernet cables? That's an easy and hard question at the same time. Easy and hard question at the same time, right? So if you want to be the best installer, okay, not a good installer, the best installer, you're going to want to follow the standards or the best practices. And that means that they can go up to 100 meters or 328 feet. That includes the patch cords, the connector on the faceplate, the horizontal cable, and the patch panel or 110 block or BIX block or 66 block. Well, Cat 5e can be 66, right? So do that full 100 meters. The truth and the reality is you can run longer cables, but you won't be compliant with the standards. Now, unless you're trying to file for a warranty or you're trying to do a certification, what's the challenge there, right? So the easiest way to make sure that a cable can go past that 100 meters is with what's called a BERT tester, B-E-R-T, bit error rate tester, also known as a qualifier. Okay. Next question. What is the significance of shielding in Category 6A cables? Not every Category 6A cable has a shield. Okay. And besides that, Cat 5e can be shielded. Cat 6 can be shielded. Cat 6a can be shielded. Cat 8 is shielded. So a shielded cable has two things inside of it. It's got a foil shield and a drain wire. Now, there is a type of cable called a discontinuous isolation wrap, which means it has a full shield, but there's a small break every few feet, but there is no drain wire. So the reason for the shielding on that Category 6A cable, like I was asked, is to keep external interference from getting onto the pairs inside of the cable. So I told you what internal interference was. External interference is when you have two cables side by side and one's interfering with the other. It may not necessarily be a cable. It could be a fluorescent light ballast. It could be electrical cable and conduit. It could be a copier machine. That foil shield, when that EMI hits that foil shield, it dissipates off that foil shield and it does not go into the cable. That is why we have shielded cable. Generally in the US, we shy away from shielded cable unless there's an environment that we're putting the cable in that needs it, like casinos, hospitals. The government loves shielded cable plants, right? Sometimes you'll get those qualifiers out there, but most of the time in the US, we are going to shy away from, because the cable costs more, the connector costs more, and it takes longer to test and longer to install. And what is time to us? Money, right? So in the US, we generally shy away from shielded cable plants unless it's driven by the spec or by the customer. What is the difference between UFTP and FUTP in Cat 6A cables? Well, I just kind of already explained it, actually. So U/FTP. The U means unshielded, okay? The FTP means each of those pairs has a full shield. So when you strip off that jacket, there's no overall full shield, but you have four pairs, and each of those four pairs has a shield. That's U/FTP. And then you got F/UTP. Now that means there's an overall full shield. Once you get past that jacket, there's an overall full shield. When you take that shield and you fold it back, you'll find the four pairs inside that cable, and they all do not have any type of shielding. Okay. So remember this. This is where you remember this. The letter in front of the slash tells you if there's a foil shield or not, and the letters after the slash tells you if the pairs have shields or not. Okay, that's the difference between those two. By the way, if you're doing shielded cable plants, you have to bond both ends to a ground, both ends. What is the advantage of using Cat 7 cable over Cat 6A? So Cat 7 and Cat 6A cable both support 10 gig networks. Okay, and they both offer a lot of resistance to interference because of the shields in the pair. Cat 7, though, outside of the crazy people on social media putting in Cat 7 for their houses, you're not going to find it very often inside the US. Cat 7 is really more of an ISO 11801 thing, cable done in the UK and Europe, right? In the US, we generally shy away from Cat 7. What is power over Ethernet, and how does it relate to category related cable? Power over Ethernet means we're sending both a network signal and current across that cable. And when the receiver gets that cable, the current powers up the device and it takes the data to communicate. Let's say, for example, you've got a camera way out in the parking lot, and that camera, so the data will provide the transmission between the two, and the current will maybe provide current for the heater so the camera doesn't get all fogged up. Okay. Now there's PoE, And there's different levels of PoE. You have PoE, PoE plus, PoE plus plus, all the way up to 90 watts. But you can also do what's called digital current. Digital current. And there's also some manufacturers out there that do fiber with 12 gauge conductors, so you can go even further distances, 10,000 feet in some scenarios. So that's all you're doing. You're really putting the network signal and current on the same cable sheath to power up the device and have that device talk to the network. That's what PoE is. And by the way, look up PoE of Texas. Look up the PoE Consortium. I got invited to be a host at one of their events coming up soon, and I'm going down there to do help them come up with some guidance for new installs. So it's pretty cool stuff. What is the difference between solid and stranded conductor cables in category rated cables? Okay, so generally speaking, if it's done correctly, the cable that runs from the connector on that faceplate to the patch panel back in the telecom room is usually going to be a solid conductor cable. When you strip off the jacket, underneath will be one solid conductor. It has better performance than stranded conductors. On a stranded conductor cabling, when you strip off the dielectric, you're going to find multiple strands of copper underneath of it. The advantage of stranded conductors is they're more flexible, so you can route them through modular furniture and through desks. The disadvantage to stranded conductor cabling is they have higher insertion loss. Depending on the gauge size, it can be up to as much as 50% more attenuation than its solid conductor partner, right? Okay, next question. Why is cable termination important to ensuring network performance? Okay, so the characteristic impedance for 4-pair UTP cable is 100 ohms. And so is the characteristic impedance for the connectors, right? Plus or minus 5%. But there's always a little bit of difference. And that little bit of a difference is going to cause some of the energy to get reflected back towards the originating source. The better the termination, the closer those two numbers are. And the closer those two numbers are to each other, the more energy, the more signal that can go through that transmission point. That's why you should always adhere to the best practices. Don't untwist more than a half of an inch for Cat 5e or Cat 6. Don't untwist more than a quarter of an inch for Cat 6a. Can you untwist more and still work? Maybe. But you are definitely impacting the performance of that. Now, if you're not going to hit that cable with a certifier, you may not ever catch that. And the way it'll show up on a network, and maybe the Beard of Knowledge and Ed, the old tech guy, who are both in the TikTok feed, can verify this. It shows up as latency in the network. Latency in the network. So what'll happen is instead of it taking 3 seconds to download that big file, now it's going to take 10 seconds. Now you're probably thinking, well, Chuck, what's 7 seconds? 7 seconds times the number of employees times the number of downloads. You do the math. That's a lot of wasted time. So always terminate the jacks the way that they're supposed to be. Okay. The better you terminate them. A good rule of thumb, when you're terminating a jack, make sure that the jacket comes all the way up to the very back side of the connector. All the way up to the back side of the connector. Hold over here so my TikTok peeps can see it too. That's the way you want that. You want that jacket come all the way up to the back side. Because if you do that, you know you're well within the half inch or a quarter of an inch that's specified by the standards. What is the purpose of the cable jacket in category rated cable? So the cable jacket does a couple things. Number one, it provides a protection from the environment, right? That could be heat, that could be cold, that could be installation, that could be water or moisture. So it offers external protection, but it also holds the pairs together inside of the cable. Because remember, we put the pairs inside the cable a certain way so they don't interfere with each other. So the cable jacket kind of keeps it all nice together, right? How does cable bending radiuses affect the cable performance? That's simple. It changes the twist rates. It changes the relationship of the pairs inside that cable, and that shows up as signal distortion, right? Again, crosstalk. So remember, we're trying to keep those pairs apart. When you exceed the bend radius, you're changing how those pairs are, how they are inside the cable. They become closer together, and they'll show up as crosstalk issues. What are some common applications for Category 8 cables? and what data rates do they support? Category A cable is really designed for data centers. Data centers. That doesn't mean you can't use it in your house, but it's an awful expensive cable to use in your house. Cat A cable can do either 25 or 40 gigabit networks. I don't know too many people running 25 or 40 gig networks in their house. Maybe Ed the old tech guy, maybe the beard of knowledge, because those guys are IT gurus. Kind of like how us cable guys have the best cable in our house. Those guys probably have a 40 gig network in their house. Knowing those guys, right? So that's what Cat 8 does. In a residential thing, Cat 8, you really don't need it. In fact, if you really want to go future proofing in a residential install, Cat 6A. Cat 6A. That'll future proof you for the next 20 years, right? The next 20 years. Somebody says, haha, no way, moving up to 10 gig slowly. Because 10 gig equipment is not cheap, right, Ed? All right. Next question. How do you certify the performance of category rated copper cables, and why is it important? Okay, so certifying means you're measuring the cable's electrical properties. For example, you're measuring insertion loss, near and crosstalk, return loss, the power sum crosstalks, propagation delay skew. You're measuring all those electrical properties, and then this tester compares those results to what's printed in the standards. And if it meets it, winner, chicken dinner, rock on. Now, if you're trying to get a warranty from a manufacturer, a lot of those are going to require certification tests. Certification testers are not cheap. They're $9,000 to $26,000, depending on whose you buy and what bells and whistles you get. Right? That's what certifier does. But a lot of people don't know about certifiers. They have to be calibrated once every 12 months, especially if you want a warranty. If you get outside that 12 months, what happens is there are third-party calibration shops that will calibrate the tester for you. Okay. Next question. How do I advance my career in the ICT industry as an RCDD or Bixie technician? Okay. There's lots of different ways. Education, experience, mentoring. There you go. There's your three big ways, right? So not every company is going to send you to a class, because Bixie classes are not cheap. They're worth it, but they're not cheap. They're, $2,000, $3,000, somewhere in that ballpark, depending on which class it is. It's expensive, but knowledge is expensive, right? Well, actually, knowledge is not expensive. You know what's expensive? Stupidity. That's expensive. When you go out there and you do things wrong, and then you have to go back and fix it later, and the customer's all mad at you. You lost customer confidence, right? Now you got a bad reputation. How much does that cost you? Right? So stupidity is expensive. Knowledge isn't. But if you don't want to take one of the Bixie classes, there's FOA, Fiber Optic Association for fiber. You can always buy the books, for example, like the Pocket Field Guides and the ITSM Manual, all that other stuff. You can buy those and read it without having to get the certification. And there's a lot of great content providers out there as well, right? So there you go. What are some key skills and qualities that employers look for RCDDs and Bixie technicians? So employers are typically going to want somebody who's got strong technical knowledge, somebody who has strong problem-solving skills, somebody who has attention to detail. Attention to detail. Yeah, so they don't untwist those pairs, right? And here's one that they really look for as well. Somebody who has excellent communication skills. Yeah, we work in the communications industry. What do we suck at? I'll let you answer that question. Put the answer in the chat box. What do we suck at? We work in the communications industry. What do we suck at? Right. Now, if you got your certification as an RCDD or as a Bixie technician, you should be, Ed, 10,000 points for you, because Ed said communications. You should be proficient in all those things. You should be proficient, because to get there, you had to pass those tests to do that. Right. What are some emerging trends in the ICT industry that could impact my career? Okay. This industry is literally moving at the speed of light. Literally moving at the speed of light. There's new types of fiber coming out. There's new technologies coming out, building automation, digital electricity, power over Ethernet, cybersecurity. There's all kinds of things going on. Internet of Things. There's all kinds of stuff that needs to be wired up to the network now. You want to stay relevant. You want to stay current. You want to stay informed. And the best way to do that follow me. No, I'm just saying, well, yeah, follow me. But besides the point, subscribe to and read Cable Installation and Maintenance Magazine. Go to the Bixie conferences and attend the committee meetings. You don't have to pay the conference to attend the committee meeting. You can learn stuff that way. There's a lot of great resources out there on the internet too. A lot of great resources. So make sure you follow those. Okay. Next question. How can I manage projects in the ICT industry from estimation to completion? The best thing to do is to manage them is a good company, a great company is going to have somebody separate estimating, somebody separate managing it. Some of your smaller companies, the project manager is going to do both. The problem with doing it that way is the project manager has to estimate, they spend some of their time every week estimating new projects. So when they win projects, when they finish the project on, there'll be more work in the pipeline. So you really want to be the best thing for project management. Take the Bixie RTPM certification, or go to download the Telecommunications Project Methods Manual, the TPM. That's going to tell you how to manage projects. It's going to give you all kinds of great skill sets. A lot of that will translate over to estimating, right? Estimating. Actually, I got a really cool episode coming up on the podcast. When I was at NECA, I came across the booth. Actually, what happened was Sean from Light Brigade, you may know Sean from Light Brigade, grabs me at my booth and says, "Hey, you need to come talk to this guy," and pulls me over, and he takes me to this guy and says, "You need to talk to this guy." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm here. What do you want to talk to me about?" He has a program that if you have the prints, right? Let's say you're doing the rake offs, you're trying to count all the triangles and stuff. If you have the prints, he has a program that he's written that will count all of them for you. And if you associate, okay, a solid triangle is going to need a faceplate and 2 connectors. A open triangle is going to need 1 faceplate, 1 connector. It will create a bill of materials. How cool is that? How cool is that, right? I mean, that's absolutely just blows my mind. Last question, because we're running out of time here. Actually, I'm going to get bearded knowledge question too. What strategies can I use to build a personal brand and promote my career as an RCDD or a Bixie technician? I have no idea. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I'm still trying to figure out the winning combination. I'm still trying to become internet famous. Well, I don't want to be internet famous. I want to reach more people so I can impact their lives by educating them. I don't want to be, if I could do that without being famous, if I could figure out a way to do that with AI, so I didn't have to, so people wouldn't recognize me, dude, I'd be all over that. But if you want to do that, first you have to create an online presence, right? That means LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those. And you're gonna have to create content and create it consistently. Don't put up I'm gonna create a podcast on how to do fiber optic cabling and then only do 2 episodes. No, you got to be consistent, right? The audience literally will start expecting it. This happens with my audience all the time. If I miss an episode, which happens rarely, I get emails from like 10 people. Everything okay, Chuck? Yes. So be consistent. Also network. Like I said, I went to the NECA event. When I was there, I talked to a lot of people. Find the local meetings for people, professionals in your area, and meet with them. Get certifications because that gives you authenticity and also gives you credibility, right? Mentorship, and then also find people who mentor you, right? So there's a lot of things out there, right? So let me see. The Beard of Knowledge had a question. He says, become strong in project management, and you need this for subcontract. Oh, absolutely. I thought it was a question. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Wow, we went through all this and still did it in 30 minutes. Nice. All righty. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off because I got to go take care of Mama real quick before I start the study group tonight. It's a busy night for Mr. Chuck. So until next time, everybody, remember, knowledge is power. See you guys next